government worker says these cuts are unfair, but let's hear it from an insider. What does she think about government work?
I used to be a federal employee, and I'm going to tell you why I don't feel bad for federal employees being forced to come back into the workplace. I worked for the Army Corps of Engineers for almost a year, and the abuses that I saw by government employees was astounding and shocking. I worked as a realty specialist, and that is someone who manages government-owned lands. So when farmers and ranchers lease land to graze cattle, we would manage that. When I was hired, my boss bragged that it was basically impossible to get fired from the federal government, and that in her entire time working for the government, she'd only seen one person fired, and that person assaulted a fellow employee, and she wasn't even fired for assaulting the employee at work. She was fired for lying about it because they caught it on camera. When I worked for the government, we were allowed to work 50% in the office and 50% from home, for the most part. In some cases, if you'd worked there, like I think over 10 years or something, you could actually work from home 3 days a week and work from the office 2 days a week. I use the word work very loosely. One employee spent his time remote working, running his own farm. Another employee bragged about drunk driving and going out to lunch with her friends for margaritas when she was supposed to be remote working. No one would log into their computers, and you can see it because they're not on Teams, and no one ever checked. Ever. There's something called the 80-20 rule where 80% of the work in government is done by 20% of the people, and this is very, very true. People who get a job in the government a lot of times find out that it's very difficult to fire them, and they take advantage of this. One employee would come into the office, his start time would be 6:30, and he knew nobody would be there. And when I came in at 7:30 and I was the next person to come in, he was snoring at his desk every single morning. Another employee would take the government truck on an almost daily basis so that he could go out to lunch and then go and take a nap in his favorite park under a shady tree in the government truck. One of the very first things I did when I started working for the Corps, I spent 3 months cleaning up their real estate files room, which was a disaster. The government is using an antiquated system that was developed sometime in the 90s and using regulations that haven't been updated since the 90s to manage our dams and our government lands. Our government is filled with the most incompetent and most lazy people and an occasional hard worker. And those hard workers are severely punished every time they outwork their colleagues, because then the colleagues realize people will see that they're lazy and they don't want to have to work more. They're just buying time until they retire in almost every case. My point is, some of our government organizations haven't been maintained or updated in so long that you basically need to create a new organization and start from scratch, because there's almost no way to transfer it over. And there's so much red tape in between, it'll never get done. But I know that our government is inefficient because the people working for it are not doing what they need to do to take care of the rest of us. So no, I don't think government employees should get the benefit of working from home. If our government is not working for us, we shouldn't have to take years to do anything in a technological age. They choose to take that long. That's a choice. So they can choose to do things faster and more efficiently, and then they can choose to get remote work back. I don't feel bad for them.
What do you think about this? Like, share, and subscribe.